Hi, welcome to another Revenue Hub video series. Following the success of our AI series in the summer, please do check it out if you haven't seen them yet, we decided it would be great to get our expert partners' views once more. In the spirit of this time of year, we've asked them to predict what 2026 might have in store for the hotel industry. Now, through these videos, we are not inundating you with please subscribe and please like requests. You guys know what to do. But we would be interested to hear your thoughts on the predictions. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your predictions? Anyway, hope you enjoy it, and thanks again to our expert partners for taking part. Let's see what their predictions are. Hey, welcome to our 2026 Crystal Ball Predictions video series. Thank you so much. I know I'm saying this to everybody, but I know this is a crazy busy time as we run into the end of the year. So I really do appreciate you finding some time in your diary to come on and talk to us about what you think or where you think the focus could be in 2026 and what might be happening. Before we get into that, how are things with you? You all well? Business good?
All well, all well. Thank you for having us. Yes, as you said, it's a busy time of year, and we were just talking a moment ago that is like we have to remember. Okay, it's good that we're busy. So
Can't
happy
complain.
to fit in this conversation because if we don't, we will never get to it. Because hopefully, we continue to have success and continue to be busy throughout. So thank you for
Absolutely.
having us.
I know you're more than welcome. So let's get into it then. So where do you want to take us in 2026? What do you think is going to be the main issue or issues that you feel are going to raise their head that we need to be aware of and be foreshadowing?
One of the things that I've been thinking about as I read how new technologies throughout are really new to the entire operational team at hotels was that I was thinking of how this is changing the perception of what one department thinks of another, right? So we
Interesting.
know we know that technology right now is becoming an equalizer
Mhm.
amongst generations, and I'm thinking it's also becoming an equalizer across teams and the knowledge of different teams. So going back into where these thoughts are coming from. So if we know that some of the emerging technologies are new to everyone,
Yep.
when you're within a team, senior or more experienced team members have a certain amount of knowledge of the operations and what they do day to day. Newer entrants are more familiar with technology, and maybe there's a strength there. But the great equalizer is that emerging technologies are new to both.
Yep.
So the sharing of that learning can create cohesiveness within a team, can create reverse mentorship, can create all of these wonderful things, right? On the
Interesting. I
adoption of
hadn't
new
thought about that. That's a
technologies.
really good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And so, but then what happens? But that's when there's, within a team and understanding and openness to, again, to mentorship, et cetera. But what happens when you take that in separate independent teams, right?
Yep.
Does that break down the silos or create more? So
Break down the silos but create barriers.
exactly. So the breaking down the silos concept is not new. We've had
Yep.
entire conferences in the last few years about it.
Oh
And we're
yes.
all committed to it, and we know the importance. And I'm sure consultants have been brought in. It's a big thing. So it's not that we're blind to it, right? But the approach that we have taken for breaking down the silos, of course, includes communication, openness, what have you. And whoever's implementing it is going at that speed.
Mm-hmm.
So if we put that to a side for the moment and we think about how technology, whether it's agentic AI, whether it's the ability to search for anything and everything, right, is allowing us to in theory, understand what other teams are doing.
Yeah.
In theory, right? Because again, if there's not that communication as it when it's in the same team, someone could just go into ChatGPT and say, okay, I don't understand really what I'm making this up. Revenue management does. So what is revenue management and what do they do? And why do we need to ask them for
Yeah.
data of our own operations? And they can go in and do a quick search and then possibly come up with a conclusion of it's not that hard, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And not have a true understanding of the discipline, et cetera. So
It's like a
what
superficial response, isn't it?
a
Rather than
superficial response, exactly. So whether that all is happening at one organization or not, those are two realities.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that our industry is open and in some cases embracing the change and the breaking of the silos, and the fact that technology is breaking the silos, whether we are ready or not, right? So what I am thinking as a prediction or maybe an action or something that technology is going to bring us to do is to deal in a practical way how we're going to communicate the understanding to go from superficial that we know that people can have or obtain to what is going to be meaningful for the organization. That active sharing of information and understanding of operation as a whole that technology is going to bring us to, I think we're going to see more and more active cooperation, whether it is from HR, whether it is from departments themselves, into that openness.
You said something there, and something popped into my head. When you're a specialist in something, so whether that be, let's take marketing and revenue, because those two often are used as, two sides of the brain from your creative and analytical, and they have to work together. So as a simple example, if I'm a specialist in revenue or if I'm a specialist in marketing, I'm very proud about what I've done, my career, how I've upskilled myself. If I suddenly have someone from the other side of the fence come in and tell me what I should be doing because they've put a prompt into ChatGPT and got an answer, I'm not sure that's going to create conversation. That feels like it could be creating a bit of tension and conflict. And I mean, that's going to be an interesting for managers and leaders. That could be an interesting culture to have to deal with.
That's what I'm thinking is something that managers, leaders, HR teams are going to be potentially seeing more of, right? That this misunderstanding because the silos are being broken without them having, guided how that silo is going to be broken. And sometimes also just misconceptions on the understanding even of how the technology is being managed, right? Because we all as technologists are trying to be much more open about what we offer, what it can do, readiness of information available to our clients and our users. So again, take that internally and into operations. One department is asking another for a piece of information, a piece of data, a particular way of understanding things. And we are used to saying, oh, the PMS doesn't give me that. Oh, the CRS does not X, Y, or Z, whatever it is, the technology, the CRM, whatever it is. I mean, particularly for the younger generation, once they know what technology they are using, it wouldn't be too extreme to think of a situation where they simply go and they get within the knowledge base or chat or something of that technology and find out, oh no, they do offer this feature, etc. So again, just it can create misunderstanding or misconceptions in the internal tech utilization of the tools that they have. So it is very broad, but I do believe that in the coming year or few years, that will be something that leadership will have to face. So how do we think about preparing for that? How do we think about creating the ability for operationally communicate within the roles, or tamper, if you will, any misunderstanding or misconception that comes from a silo that is being broken out of your control?
As I see more and more technology come through where people are inputting on a tablet or whatever it might be, and that triggers something and that notifies somebody else, I'm wondering, will there actually be an element where we feel less connected as a team and more just servants to tasks that we are being allocated, and where we used to come in and enjoy, you know, that coming together and that interaction during the day of our colleagues in different departments, but now because I'm getting notifications on my mobile that I've got to go to room 203 because a light needs changing, or 302 are checking out early. I'm no longer talking to anybody. Someone somewhere is plugging in an action, or something has happened. I'm getting a notification because that triggers. I'm going and doing it. I go home at the end of the day. My tasks are ticked. I've gone through my list. But am I still working as a team? Am I just a servant to a piece of technology that's allocating me tasks?
Well, the only thing there, Trevor, is I think that will be pervasive, right? I think that is not just of our industry. So hopefully it will not create a detriment, because that will be pervasive across any industry. But I do think and I have worked in hotels and with hotels for all my life. And there is typically a strong team camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
And then the disconnect happens more across teams, and many times it is up to leadership to figure that out, whether it's leadership of all of the operational groups, or leadership of the hotel as a whole. So that's common. And then when you get into different sizes of properties, if you are in a smaller property and you could be maybe in the engineering team, so maybe most of your team is not there when you are there, right? You are a team. And so, like you said, that is this technology creating more isolation between the person that is there, one team versus the other team, and the understanding of their role and what they bring, et cetera. So again, I think this is something that is going to make us be very, very intentional as to how we're going to address these silos that will be broken. Mm-hmm. And do we choose the path that, at the highest, do we choose the path and the communication and the mentorship that will happen? Middle of the road is, are we alert, just from the leadership perspective, taking it away from the team? I'm not recommending I'm just saying middle of the road would be, as a leader, and do I recognize that will happen and put measures into how to bridge it when it happens, because we're too busy, we don't have whatever the ability to focus on it, but I will bridge it or take care of it when it happens. Or at the lowest level, just whatever, just let it happen, and there will be churn, and then other people will come and they will be okay with the questions that are coming up, right? But it is something that we'll have to answer.
It's interesting, because the one word that you've mentioned numerous times through this whole conversation so far is leadership, and I that's it's obvious to say, well, it's down to leadership, but I think more than ever, the last time I think leadership was challenged to quite the degree it has been or will be is when we were in the pandemic a few years ago. I think the way that technology, as you say, that's cutting across industries, cutting across society, and then is therefore breaking down the accessibility to knowledge where the knowledge was kept in silos. But I do wonder how the industry, what steps they maybe need to consider in 2026 to prepare themselves for hiring in 3 to 4 years' time. Because if we are using technology to do a lot of roles, and then we start saying, well, we need to hire somebody with 2 to 3 years experience, Well, in 2 to 3 years' time, if we haven't been hiring people at a lower, where are they gaining that 2 to 3 years experience? And I don't know. I just welcome your thoughts, what your take on it, as whether there's going to be a bit of a gap that we need to be thinking about how we're going to address it.
Well, let's think about the first part of that question, right? So you said we're going to have technology come in and replace some of these roles. That's the first perspective that leadership or HR has to think about. You know, the why before the how.
Mm-hmm.
So the discovery of why does technology need to replace however it is how we do it today? Does it reduce friction? Is it a trend versus something that we need? Is it going to help engagement? So on and so forth. So the first evaluation is, why would I let technology take care of this task? If it is thought out that way, versus, you know, as you know, sometimes we simply get the mandate from corporate, do more with less. You have this much budget for technology, and you try to fit something there, particularly if it's a manual task. So those are all great perspectives of thinking about it, but you also have to put in the why. So if you know the why you're going to adopt that technology, then what you can do next is think of, how do I maybe think of this as a two-way street, right? Like a mentorship model. How do I create the ability for both tenured employees that are going to adopt this technology and an understanding of it, and how do I bring a new younger player that maybe now has more free time because that manual test was removed? But how do I create this two-way street that they begin to be mentored into, whether it is looking at things differently or whatever it's that motivates that why that led you to choose that technology. And then if you have the why, and let's say that's reducing friction from guests, right? And then you say what tasks are going to be replaced or what have you. Then you do that strategic pairing, that two-way street that says, okay, we're going to use this technology, and therefore, as an action, what we're going to get is whatever X additional engagement or recency or frequency of stay or what have you, right? And then third, if you tie that to some type of career advancement, right? So, okay, then after this, I see us maybe possibly creating a role that, so on and so forth, right? That's the only way to create something, mentor a model, if it's not a person, to get to that role that you can then ask for 2-3 years of experience, maybe that not in that exact role that you created, but now you know how you got there, why you got there, and that two-way street of giving mentorship and receiving the work of the new entrant. I don't know, but that's
but that makes sense. And you would imagine for the so the individual, they get told that, okay, we're going to be investing in a bit of technology that's going to free up 20% of your time. You're going to be nervous that maybe this means you're going to be out of a job at some point in time. But what we're actually going to do is we want to take a different approach, and we want to start to upskill you and develop some new skills so that you can have a greater variety in your role, greater impact, greater cross-functioning, maybe hopefully greater motivation for you when you're coming into work every day. So that's your two-way street. That could be a great retention tool. It just requires the one thing that typically hasn't been done, which is whenever you talk to anybody in HR within the hotel industry, the amount of money that they have for mentoring, training, or anything like that is kind of one of the smallest budgets. And it's almost as if that's got to shift a little bit. And it's like, okay, we're investing in technology, but then we're going to get greater productivity per person, but we have to invest in that person so that they can realize that greater productivity. And we can kind of turn them from a hammer or a saw or a wrench into a multi-tool where they could do numerous things all within one individual.
And this goes back to our initial conversation, Trevor, about the breaking of the silos that will happen, but can it happen in a planned way? So by the time it gets to HR, if HR has the understanding of the why, the initial reason why that technology was adopted, then the reviews, the KPIs, the goals can be tied to that. So the individuals are still held responsible to bringing something that is very actionable or revenue driven or loyalty driven or what have you. But again, it goes back to the breaking of the silos of these communications.
Makes a lot of sense. And how these roles and how businesses and how leadership and how the HR departments and teams are working together and adjusting this is I think you're right. I think it's going to be more prevalent or more front of mind in next year than it certainly has been in the last couple of years, without a doubt. Yeah.
Yes. I think HR and leadership to hear about tension, because one side told the other, you can just automate that.
Yeah.
You can, AI can do X, Y, or Z, and those are going to be increasing.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Really interesting thoughts to consider. Glad that you could join us and share those with us. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found the predictions discussion interesting. If you'd like to see any of our videos from our Summer AI series, here is a link to that playlist. And if you've missed any of the other prediction videos, here is a link to that playlist. And finally, can I genuinely just thank you all for watching or listening to our content? It really is appreciated, and we look forward to bringing you more in 2026. Thanks so much. Take care.